free.
Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Life is a journey, and the Doherty Family College will help you get where you want to go. Located downtown Minneapolis, this affordable 2-year college provides free textbooks, a laptop, meals, career coaches, one-on-one mentorship, and a Metro Transit pass, making DFC the perfect pathway to a bachelor's degree. Turn your dreams into reality. Connect with a counselor today at dfc.stthomas.edu.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
J&S Bean Factory is a Native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for clear skies overnight with a low around 55, Tuesday sunny with a high near 84, and Wednesday sunny with a high around 85. Stop by Crooners for a delicious dinner and some of the best jazz music in the Twin Cities. Enjoy mouth-watering dinner selections like the prime rib and crested walleye, along with fabulous cocktails in one of Crooners' 3 unique music venues. Crooners Supper Club is located off Moore Lake and Highway 65. More at croonersmn.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous. Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hitting cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanjahade, which means distant thunder. My colonized name is Robert Pilot, and we discuss national and local Native news and issues. And as you know, Wendy, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 Hotline. Call them at 651-304-9986. They're open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
If you guys are watching us here on Facebook Live or YouTube, Wendy's incognito here, and she has my wolf hat on.
I have a wolf hat on, and I have my sunglasses on just because I didn't really feel like fixing my makeup.
Hey,
to be quite honest.
Wow.
And I look pretty cool. So that's
you are cool. You are cool. You know, we're going to have Dr. Stately on a little earlier than we normally do because there's a lot of stuff going on with COVID, and he's at the heartbeat of the Twin Cities with that. And also we're going to talk a little bit about Myron Dewey, who passed away in the 3rd segment, Wendy. He was the first person, I don't know if famous person or one of the leaders of DAPL, Dakota Access Pipeline. He signed me in, gave me my press pass, and it's really sad. There's a lot of heartache out there about that. We'll talk about that and take your calls, and then you're going to have a nice little segment there too. Correct?
I sure am.
All right. Well, cool. Well, let's, without any further ado, and I always like to throw in a little French during the show. Let's go to Ogimaa with the news.
Hi, and bonjour, everybody. I'm Ogimaa Giniw Ikwe, and as always, we start with some Stop Line 3 news here on Native Roots Radio. Right now, the White Earth Reservation released a press release today announcing Code Red. President Biden, DNR, and Governor Walz are unwilling to stop Line 3 ongoing waters and wetlands contamination. As of September 27th, today in Bagley, Minnesota, Enbridge Line 3 construction continues to violate the federal 404 and state 401 Clean Water Act permits in Minnesota because the Minnesota DNR, Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers are unwilling to stop the violators, Enbridge, and their construction of Line 3. There's a growing situation at the Clearwater River crossing near Bagley and Highway 2, reported drone photographer Ron Turney of the Indigenous Environmental Network, who Mary Kinesh mentioned on the show last Friday. He said today he noticed lots of fluids all over the workyard, and it looks like an HDD, or horizontal directional drilling, waste contaminant failure. And there's new black trucks monitoring the pumps and more workers. But the DNR and the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency are no longer are nowhere to be found. Turney has been recording and posting videos and photos of the various spills and vegetation kills from the frack outs, basically showing that this chemical that's rising in the Clearwater tributary is killing all vegetation it touches. It's the same color as the chemical that was seen at Camp Firelight near the Mississippi. And Turney said there's more drill fluids along the east easement, and there's a dark reddish color mud that's the same color as the waste in the massive tanks. So I'm looking at aerial footage, and had I been more on top of it this Monday, I would have those pictures up for everybody who's watching online. But definitely check out Indigenous Environmental Network and follow Ron Turney. He's been doing some fantastic work. And right now, the White Earth Nation, if you don't recall, is going through a legal effort to stop Line 3 construction. In the Manuman Wild Rice and Water Protectors have now filed for another preliminary injunction, and this time in White Earth's Tribal Court of Appeals against the Minnesota DNR to cease all surface and groundwater drawing permits and all discharge and dewatering permits, all of which are a wanton waste of freshwater related activities in the current drought situation here in Minnesota. So we're looking at a lot of violations by Enbridge, and Enbridge was fined $3.3 million, I believe, in a restoration order from September. But that problem that Enbridge caused, where they broke through a calcareous aquifer in a calcareous fen, I should say, in Minnesota, which is a very, very delicate form of wetlands, that happened in January, and Enbridge did not report it until May, and the public is just now hearing about it in September. So they had an aquifer breach that released 24 million gallons of fresh water and has endangered species and very specific and delicate wetlands. And the DNR knew, or would have known about it in May, but has done nothing so far, and neither has the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. They're just completely ignoring this right now. In a statement from Winona LeDuc from Honor the Earth, she said, this is Manuman or Wild Rice ecocide, and Enbridge has screwed up right in the beginning of construction, and the independent environmental monitors Enbridge hired told no one 4 months, and the DNR is letting Enbridge continue. She says, calling all water protectors code red. This is our standing rock moment for Line 3, right beside U.S. Highway 2 in Bagley, Minnesota. And that the people must rise and come together now to stop Line 3. So if this is one of those signs that you were waiting for, should I go up there? Or do they really need me? Is this really what's happening up there? Now is the time. Now is definitely the time. If it wasn't yesterday, it's today. Also, I wanted to let Bill know that we did get your message, Bill from St. Paul, and I
everybody know, if you can't go up north, every Monday at the Minnesota Governor's Residence from 5 to 6 p.m., Women Against Military Madness, MN 350, and I believe it's Veterans for Peace are sponsoring a regular Stop Line 3 vigil in solidarity with the water protectors just outside the governor's mansion, and they do expect to run that through December. If you have any questions, the number to call is 612-827-5364. As always, some sad news here on a Monday. Myron Dewey, as Robert mentioned, who was a filmmaker, a professor, and a journalist, has passed away in a fatal car accident as of early Sunday morning in Yamba, Nevada. This is from Native News Online. Dewey founded Digital Smoke Signals, which was a media production company that shared live frontline footage during the Dakota Access Pipeline protests near Standing Rock in North Dakota. His drone footage has garnered recognition for the cause and elevated his status as a journalist. And he was arrested. He was one of several journalists who was arrested during Standing Rock, and he has done a lot for the movement. He's won awards for his journalism and media production, and he is a great loss to the Native community. Dewey was Shoshone and Paiute from the Pyramid Lake Pilot Reservation, which is 35 miles northeast of Reno. He leaves behind 3 children and 6 grandchildren. So our deepest condolences from those of us on Native Roots Radio to a professional who, as Robert said, has done so much for the movement and so much to inspire us in the work that we do.
Yeah. He has that documentary on Netflix, Awake, and it was four partitioned documentary about different people with the movement, and it's sad. And he was only 49 years old. This is LaDonna, her husband, Myron now, and it's not that long ago, 2016-17, 4 years ago, Standing Rock, and it's sad that these people are passing, and this is tragic. This is very tragic, Wendy.
Mm-hmm. And a car accident. It's really, really sad. So everybody be careful out there and drive safe, and stay off your phone, don't text, and keep your eyes on the road.
Right on. Hey, up next, we don't see him in the bullpen yet, but up next, Dr. Stately. You're listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and we'll be back after this short break.
Stay with us. Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN 350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN 350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
I heard sex trafficking happens a lot in Indian country. What is that?
Here are some of the real reasons why sex trafficking happens in Indian country. Unequal gender roles that were forced on us by colonization. Communities don't have enough resources. Silence around domestic and sexual violence. Lack of attention and justice for missing and murdered Indigenous people. There's a lot of behavior that keeps our communities out of balance. These are just a few true reasons why Native communities are targeted by traffickers. When these acts of violence happen in our communities, it opens us all up for exploitation.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me, Wen. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Well, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by MN350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice. I just want to say one thing, too, before we get going here, Robert. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline, they get updates every day. And, it seems like a long time that we've been advertising for them. And I'm hoping that someday that we won't have to have a COVID-19 hotline. But anyway, call them at 651-304-9986 for questions that you have.
Wow, that was heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we're not going to have Dr. Stately on until the next segment, so we'll probably just switch gears here a little bit. And I wanted to bring Lewis in on the conversation about Myron, and also give an opportunity for people to call at what is the number here?
I have no idea. It starts with
952-946-6205. Coast to coast. Lines are open. 952-946-6205.
That's right. Hey, Lewis, so your thoughts on Myron? I know he was one of your fans, one of your TikTok followers, along with you following him, and you've had some conversations with him, and it's just a hard deal. We got a warrior down.
Yeah, my thoughts are with his family. He leaves behind 3 children, 6 grandchildren at 49 years old. That's a tremendous lot of people that are hurting right now. And my thoughts and prayers are with them for sure. But one thing that really I've been thinking about today a little bit was thinking about activism. What does activism mean in Indian country? What does that mean for Indigenous people? We hold sacred spaces when we are in activists, Indigenous spaces, and those spaces are brought to us by the blood of our ancestors and all the things that they endured for us to continue the fight that we do today. And that's something that Myron Dewey completely understood. And using our talents that we're given, not all of us are amazing, news readers and on-air personalities like Ogimaa and Robert and Wendy and all these people. Some of us are in, we do art. Some of us, our talents are elsewhere, like organizing or other things. And having all of us Indigenous people come together and, uplift our activism and uplift our issues, that's what's sacred to me. That's what's amazing to me as Indigenous people, is that we all can get our talents together and do those type of things. And with Myron, I think one thing that he brought to light is just the visual aspect of police brutality on Indigenous people, seeing the water cannons hitting our Indigenous brothers and sisters and allies at Standing Rock. And there's always this thing when it comes to people of color, Robert, it's that we are always cast in doubt when it comes to police brutality. Every time we have something happen to us, it's like, well, what did you do? What were you doing, right? But one thing that Myron brought to light is that this unabated violence that Dakota Access Pipeline and North Dakota brought upon Indigenous people. And that's a legacy that he left for us. And I say Wopala Tonka to him and his family.
Wow, really good points. And I was thinking as you were talking, they shot down his first drone. I don't know if you remember that. And it was kind of towards the end of Standing Rock, they gave it back to him, and they shot it down, and then the police got it. And it's almost like, well, this should go in the Smithsonian Institute here, because that was the first drone, and the drones were really not new, but people were getting to figure out how to use them, and they were really really good, like you were saying, for Standing Rock, where we could see really what was happening to our peaceful protesters, Wendy. And it was every day. It was crazy. But he was, like you said, he was definitely a frontline person. I remember watching him. I'm about to sneeze here, so I might have to push the sneeze button. But I remember watching him.
Yep. Well, that's okay. Yeah, and Robert, I think he gave you your press pass when we arrived at Standing Rock. You went and met him, and he gave you your press pass.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that I was going to mention is he went live too, Facebook Live, when he was trying to get to Standing Rock, where the camp was. And then, if you remember, in the beginning, it was really frightening. Even when I went out my first time at the end of September, they had National Guard people there, like a Checkpoint Charlie, when it comes to I felt like I was watching Hogan's Heroes, and it was the Germans and the Gestapo. We couldn't move around our own country and our own land without getting checked from the police. And he had a live Facebook Live going on, and these people were giving him such a hard time. And he's just like, "Hey, what am I doing? I just want to get through. I want to get through." And they were like, almost like, "Can we check your trunk? Can we do all these things that really are unethical and unconstitutional?"
Yeah. Go ahead, Ogimaa.
Go ahead, Ogimaa.
There's examples of that in everyday life too. My partner was borrowing a vehicle that had tribal plates on it, and was on his way through the state of Minnesota, and was pulled over. And he did say he was speeding, but he was pulled over, and the first question out of the officer's mouth was, "What do those plates mean?" And then, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" And I just want to let everybody on air know too, like, if you get pulled over, you're being questioned like that by any sort of officer. If you get pulled over, they legally have to have a reason to pull you over, meaning they have to have reasonable suspicion that you were breaking the law. Having tribal plates is not reasonable suspicion that you were breaking the law. And if they ask you, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" and you tell them, "Oh, I was speeding," or, "Oh, I didn't come to a complete stop at that stop sign," you've admitted that you've broken the law, which you do not have to do. So I just want to make sure everybody is aware of that as we start to come through. We've got water protectors who are going to be going to the U.S. Capitol in October. We've got water protectors who are now going to be coming towards Bagley in north central Minnesota again. We've got people who are going to be traveling, I'm sure, by November for the services for Myron, if that's a possibility. So
It's crazy. I watch TikTok, and that's kind of how Lewis and I met Lewis, and there are people out there that go and just I don't know if this is the right way to put it, but harass the police and push them to a point like where it's like, they're asking them for their ID, and they're going, "I don't need to show you my ID. What's the just cause?" Where if I wasn't watching a lot of these videos, I would just show them my ID. There's all these things that a lot of our police force take for granted that we don't know. It's pretty amazing, and it's pretty amazing to watch these videos too, because at the very end, the police back down because the person knows his constitutional rights. Charles says, "So thankful for all that Myron Dewey shared with us. Always felt connected when he'd say relatives. He will be greatly missed. His calm determination and his tireless work for truth and justice was an incredible inspiration." Thank you, Charles, for putting that up there. I couldn't have said that any better, Wendy.
One thing I wanted to say real quick, Robert, is that Myron Dewey leads by example. He leaves an example. And Ogimaa in her news segment talked about, now's the time, right, to get involved. Now's the time, when she talked about line 3. And, if you wanted a reason, now's the time to do it. You look at Myron Dewey, right? And you look at all these water protectors. And over the weekend, Keith Ellison was confronted with water protectors as well, face to face. All of these people lead by example and lead these people to say, you know what, now is the time to be active. And what I'm seeing in Indian country, guys, and it makes my heart so big, is that there's a renewed effort of not only connecting to who we are as people, but being active and saying enough's enough. We are not going to allow corporations unabated capitalistic rights to our water, to our ways, and put money above people. Now's the time to get active. Now's the time to say enough's enough. And this goes for our allies as well. If you ever cared about our water, you ever cared about our environment, look at the legacy that Myron Dewey, that our water protectors, that people confronting our politicians are leaving. These are examples for you to follow, and now's the time to be active more than any other time, because, you know, we can never replace someone like Myron, but at the same time, there's kids out there right now that are looking up to him and saying, you know what, I want to do what he did.
Oh, that, you know, I got to just say, again, the number 946-6205, 952-946-6205. We only got like a minute left, but what I got to say, which was really interesting, not to change the talk about Myron, but when you mentioned our Attorney General, somebody had said, you need to tell us you work for us. And he said, I don't work for you. And that was like mind blowing to me. Did you see that, Lewis?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's it goes to show you the state of mind that they live in, the state of mind of our politicians these days, that, you know, not only do they not report to us, they will unabatedly say it. They'll say it publicly that they don't care. They don't care about it. And this nonchalant look that he had on his face, Ogimaa, I mean, you saw it yourself, right? This rolling of the eyes time and time again when it comes to line 3. And I am so honored to see that people were out there making a difference, Ogimaa.
I agree 100%. And the scoffing and the eye rolling, these kinds of things have got to stop, because we're fighting for water for those people just as much as we're fighting for water for everyone else. So, you know, we need to take this seriously, and I want our elected officials to take this seriously.
Yeah, and it's getting to be that time, election season here. I know we have a shortened election here in the Twin Cities, but it's 300 and some days to midterm elections, and we need to be really let our politicians know, because they're going to come asking to be on the radio and also asking to vote for us. Hey, we'll be right back with Dr. Stately.
Stay with us.
Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me, Wen. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Ryan here with locally owned Snap Construction. Hey, too much snapping. I have an important message. Roofing, siding, insulation, and window material rates have come down considerably. Production is up. Best of all, there's still time to lock in one of the many great city, state, and federal home fix-up loans with rates as low as 0%. Some cities are even offering no repayment until you sell or refi. We don't expect these programs to last much longer. Snap to it and set up your no-obligation inspection quote for your roofing, siding, windows, or insulation job today. Your Snap Construction remodel expert can lay out all the options for your roofing, siding, window, insulation project, along with all rebates, incentives, and federal, state, and city financing programs that you qualify for. Call Snap Construction today, home of the lifetime craftsmanship warranty. For over the last decade, we are arguably the most well-reviewed roofing, siding, window, insulation contractor in the Twin Cities. Don't take our word for it. Google us. Snapconstruction.com, 612-333-SNAP.
Spruce up your home with non-toxic vegan candles from Wisco Home Goods. They're a family-owned Midwestern business located in Madison, Wisconsin. Not only are their candles 100% sustainable, but owners Don and Jeremy also believe in giving back. Wisco Home Goods always feature a few cents in their Do Good, Smell Good campaign, where you can buy candles and have part of the proceeds go to local charities. So don't just buy scented candles from the big box store. Support a Midwestern company that supports our local communities. That's Wisco Home Goods. Order now at wiscohomegoods.com.
Now, more than ever, we are being faced daily with the topic of human mortality. And for many people, estate planning has been top of mind. Getting your estate planning done now can be easy and cost-effective. Schroman Law offers virtual options for initial consultations so that new clients can safely initiate the process. With many facing uncertain financial situations, Schroman Law also offers affordable fees for legal documents. Learn more at schromanlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
If you're hurting in your relationship or have been affected by sexual violence, you're not alone. Strong Hearts Native Helpline can help you through these difficult and uncertain times. Strong Hearts Helpline is a free 24/7 confidential domestic dating and sexual violence helpline for Native Americans. Help is available by calling 1-844-762-8483 or by clicking on the Chat Now icon on strongheartshelpline.org. This message is sponsored by the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center.
You've heard the screamers, you've heard the shouters. Well, now it's time to listen to a real conversation. Now it's time for the Rick Unger Show.
Weeknights from 8 to 10 p.m. on AM 950.
You can't go through a day without hearing about healthcare reform. St. Paul Corner Drug is here to help you navigate the ever-changing healthcare landscape. We are your advocate in getting much-needed prescription medication covered under your insurance plan. Need to choose a different plan? There is no reason to feel like you are drowning in the system. St. Paul Corner Drug can make simple work out of finding you a plan that best suits your needs. You can rest assured at St. Paul Corner Drug, pharmacy the way it should be.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for clear skies overnight with a low around 55, Tuesday sunny with a high near 84, and Wednesday sunny with a high around 85. Stop by Crooners for a delicious dinner and some of the best jazz music in the Twin Cities. Enjoy mouth-watering dinner selections like the prime rib and crusted walleye, along with fabulous cocktails in one of Crooners' 3 unique music venues. Crooners Supper Club is located off Moore Lake and Highway 65. More at CroonersMN.com.
This is Winona LaDuke of Honor the Earth, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio. I'm awake.
We are the Calusa Nation.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Wow, that's crazy. In order to make the radio show work,
Robert has to press the right buttons.
Well, you have to have these slidey things all the way up.
Yeah,
it's pretty.
That helps.
Hey, look who's here! It's Dr. Stately, CEO at the Native American Community Clinic, and I know you're on a tight schedule here. A lot going on here in Turtle Island and the Twin Cities, COVID-wise, and thank you so much. I know you have a lot going on, and I really appreciate you coming on, Dr. Stately.
No worries. Glad that I can make it.
Cool. So we got the Pfizer third shot, and I see a lot of my relatives out there taking that third shot that are older and not, and you know, they're not asking questions. People are going right in there, and I think maybe what I'll ask you and Wendy is to be clear, because at first I thought it'd be a good idea, because I did Moderna to mix them up and be, you know, protected in a bunch of different ways. But there's different thoughts by the CDC, I think.
Yeah, they have not. Well, I guess they've been clear that that's not their recommendation, and I would think that that's probably because there hasn't been any sound research that's been done in that specific testing that specific theory or methodology. And so, you know, what we usually do is we don't encourage people to do things that have not been sort of soundly vetted or researched, right? And yeah, that's an important thing. I think the recommendation right now is for folks who have had the Pfizer vaccine to get their third shot if they fit the criteria that's been recommended for somebody with you know, what do you call it, you know, immunosuppression that is significant, either as a result of having had like a transplant. People who get organ transplants oftentimes are given immunosuppressant medicines to sort of ensure that the transplant is successful, but it also lowers their ability to sort of like launch a significantly or thorough attack against a virus of this nature. So, you know, folks who are immunocompromised and have some serious other health issues are highly recommended to get it. And then there's been a recommendation for optional folks who are much more likely to come in contact with somebody who's possibly contracted coronavirus, and that is like healthcare workers, other essential workers who have a high volume of people that they're more likely to come in contact with, especially if it's been 8 months or longer since they had their second dose. our first
Yeah,
dose.
teachers are on the list too. I think some teachers. Yeah, teachers. Are on the
Teachers,
Yeah.
folks who sort of are like, especially so like in this day and age when like there's a lot of folks who are unvaccinated, likely to be around a bunch of people who are unvaccinated who are more likely to sort of get sick and transmit. Then the recommendation is that you get a third dose.
I heard, in matter of fact, it was a news break here. I heard that they were talking about Pfizer was talking about having a shot that once you've had COVID, you won't ever get it again. Have you heard any of that?
I have not heard that, but
Okay, that's misinformation. So let's take that back.
Take it back.
I take it back.
Right. Robert and I both had the Moderna vaccine, so we're waiting for approval for, if we're able to get the booster, because I'll get it in a minute as soon as I'm eligible. So
Yeah, go ahead, Ogimaa. You have a question?
I think the timeline on that too, by the way, for Moderna is likely to be like about within the next week or two. So
Yeah, and we'll be first in line.
Yeah, I have received the Moderna vaccination way back in March or April. I can't remember exactly. I'd have to pull out my cards to look, but I'm expecting. I'm about 4 months along now, and I'm hearing when I try to look, should people who are expecting get a COVID booster, I get very mixed reviews of information. Where's the best website or place to go to look for the current guidelines on who should get boosters or who's recommended to get boosters?
I would recommend that you look. So you look on the CDC website and you Google COVID-19 vaccination, or and they have a search bar like kind of up in the corner. So you search on their website, and they should have a page that is has all the most recent up-to-date recommendations right there. So.
That's the CDC, right, Dr. Stately?
That's for disease control and prevention, yes.
Yeah, Dr. Stately, I don't know if you can see what Chris put up there, but I've heard that a few times now that, when I've been out in the community. And so I just want to say, thank you so much, Peony Gigi, for being on when you are, because talking about this, it looks like Chris said that y'all wore me down. I got my first shot last week. And I think that makes me kind of teary-eyed in a good way, Dr. Stately.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here every week and answer questions and just generally support the community. And, I do the work I do because I love our community and I love our people. And, and it brings me great pleasure to be able to do that, to serve in this kind of capacity. So, and I'm glad I wore them down like a slow dripping fountain on a rock over thousands and thousands of years.
Well, you're younger than I am, but I was thinking more of like Muhammad Ali doing the rope a dope.
Well, there you go.
But yeah, no, I mean, that's what makes this show for me worthwhile, is to have be a conduit for someone like you, Lewis, and our other guests, Wendy, bringing information. I just sit here and listen, and it's great that we have some people listening to us on the radio and on Facebook and YouTube. So.
Yeah, and now that Chris got vaccinated, he could encourage other people to do the same. So it's a ripple effect. It really is. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I just quickly wanted to say too that it's also important to get vaccinated going into states that aren't as stringent or as proactive as Minnesota is or other states. I'll be going back home to the Black Hills here pretty shortly. And as we know, Kristi Noem in South Dakota has been completely antagonistic when it comes to anything COVID related with wearing masks. That's why I think getting vaccinated before we go to those other states, because they don't care. And a lot of these people, they don't wear masks. They don't do anything like that. It's important to stay safe, especially going out there. That's why, it's important to, I think, also get vaccinated too.
Yeah. It's really sad that this whole thing has become sort of polarized and falling around sort of political lines. What's ironic is that, those individuals probably got their vaccines. They probably, they were probably like, along with Trump and a few other people, like his followers, they were all in line to get the vaccine first, and which baffles me, right? So that they would then say like, well, don't wear masks and don't get the vaccine and those kinds of things. Kind of crazy making. I think people need to make up their minds individually and think about and use their intuitive their intuition and their intuitive brain, and just look at the science, look at the evidence. We vaccinated over 200 million people worldwide, successfully. That's a lot of evidence, right? And less than 5% of people have had any serious illnesses as a result of it.
So, do you have your hand up again?
I do. Did anybody see that woman on TikTok who crunched the numbers for your likelihood of getting COVID if you have or have not been vaccinated? Have you seen that? It's like 1 in 67 chance you'll get COVID and get severely ill and maybe die, but it's like 1 in 13,000 or something if you get the vaccine. For her to break down those numbers, I thought was really helpful, because I think a lot of people still think that 1 in 67 is a lot, like that's not common, or that's not that common, and it's like dreadfully common. Like that's not something you're risking yourself against.
I don't know. The next time you go to some public event and you count 100 people in the area in which you're around, it would be like, oh, okay, well, 2 of us are going to leave here with COVID. That's kind of like the same.
I just, doctor, I wish that Mike Lindell, my pillow guy, right? I wish that he spent all that time and effort putting it into COVID prevention than going to empty parking lots in Arkansas talking about some voter fraud. I mean, just imagine if we rallied all these multimillionaires who, as Dr. Stately said himself, probably statistically got the COVID shot themselves, but are not preaching this stuff. It's just so hypocritical.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to bring up, Dr. Stately, is, our former president and a lot of people that are saying don't take the shot have already gotten the shot. So it just blows my mind that it's so political, and it's it's killing off Republican voters is what it's doing.
Yeah, that's kind of baffling too, that they want to kill off their base. Like, how do they? It doesn't.
Isn't their base dying by natural causes anyway? I'm sorry to say that, but isn't that true?
There's like no logic to it at all.
Darwin.
Yeah.
Weeding out the. Never mind.
I read somewhere, and I don't even know if it's true, that they're dying at like 4 times the rate of Democrats, but I don't know if that's true or not.
I have a quick question for you, Dr. Stately. Are you only going to be able to be on one segment, or can you do 2?
I can stay until the end. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I saw a map of California when they were trying to get rid of the current governor there. And they showed a map of all the counties that were Republican and wanted to get rid of the current governor. And then they superimposed another map of California of all the COVID cases. And it looked like the same exact map.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is quite. It's maddening is what it is.
Well, it's sad, and we're gonna take a quick break here, but it's sad, Dr. Stately, and everybody, that that isn't the way we really are. Is like us against them, and I think,
No, I'm just kidding.
well, unless you're a New Yorker, and Wendy.
And I think more importantly, like, encourage people to stop listening to the noise. It's just noise. It's like it's distraction.
That's
quite
facts.
frankly. So.
It is. Well, geez, up next, Dr. Stately, Wendy.
Awesome.
Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we're having a little COVID fun here and talking about statistics and really doing the creator's work. I really appreciate people reaching out to us and saying that our Monday talk is helping. So that's
helping them get the shot. That's great.
Hey, we'll be right back after this short break.
Stay with us.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
When we heal from our traumas,
when we face our fears,
let go of our addictions,
when we relearn our values,
when we live our teachings,
respecting our elders,
cherishing and honoring our children,
when we honor and take care of our spirit,
there will be no room left for sexual violence.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Bonjour, I am Oshawashko Gijig. I'm from Red Lake Nation, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Woo, woo, woo. Jeez. Okay. Hey, so Dr. Stately, what I'd like to do is just back up a little bit and talk about your experience with COVID, and just tell your story of what happened last Thanksgiving, and you were in the hospital. And maybe we can change a few other people's minds out there that are listening to this. But one of the things I wanted to say before I get to that, and Tammy, who I know really well, said, "Hello, I'm curious to know." Whoops, it just was moved. I'm curious to know why our community does not promote building our natural immune systems, prevention medicine, as long as offering sweats. And that's a good point. And I think, personally, my community does offer sweats and does talk about that and talk about other kind of medicines. We just don't really do that here, Dr. Stately.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. There are people who have been doing and offering those things for a long period of time. Western culture hasn't legitimized or valued traditional healing methodologies as much as they've legitimized and valued Western practices for several hundred years now, and so we are swimming upstream a little bit with regard to that. But I think one of the things that I do want to say is that I don't think that this is my personal opinion too. I don't think that there's anything wrong with practicing both things, right? If you practice traditional healing ways and go see a healer and use traditional medicines and all those other things, that does not preclude that you can't also practice Western medicine or use Western medicine, and vice versa. And I think that's probably, for me, I think would be the recommendation here that I would encourage people to do. The reason I say that is, as Native people, we have been innovators since the beginning of time. Every single time, we didn't stay in one place as Native people either. We kind of roamed around. People called us nomadic, but we roamed around and moved around, oftentimes with intention, right? We'd go visit other communities. We'd go visit other tribal communities, and we would borrow or take or sort of trade practices and skills and tools and all these other kinds of things. And when traders showed up, the French and a few other people, that kind of visitors that came to our nations, they brought things that were sort of considered to be things that they wanted to trade with us. And we would take those things and maybe we'd use it in the way that it was intended, that they designed it for, or we'd take it and we'd use it in the way that was most useful for us. That's called ingenuity. That's called innovation. That we've been doing that since the beginning of time. There's no reason why we can't do that in this current time as well and practice both of those things. And I think that, she brings up a very good question. And there's all kinds of reasons why we don't have a lot of ability to access traditional medicines those are directly linked to colonization. So rather than sort of blaming our community for not doing it, we need to look at the structures that reinforce colonization and dismantle those so that we can have access to our traditional ways of healing. Because we should have access to both.
I agree 100%. And I think just to switch gears here, I thought it was kind of interesting question, and we all know Tammy, so thanks for listening, Tammy. I think the people that are picking up our show or listening to our show in Madison and Chicago and all around the Twin Cities, you have a compelling story, Dr. Stately. And one of it is that you were hospitalized for a long time with COVID. And I'm wondering if you could just let our audience know about your history and what happened to you and
Sure, yeah.
miracle here.
Well, yeah, my ironically enough, this evening my kids are going to do hockey tryouts. So I think my kid got it last year from hockey at the beginning of the season, like towards the end of October, early November, and he got it, then I got it, then his brother got it, and then my partner got it. And we pretty much kind of fell like dominoes in our family because we lived in a really tight sort of open, we lived in like one of those houses they call like, what is it called? Open, like an open design. There really wasn't any living space to sort of go in quarantine to. So, and I, among all four of us, I was the one that got the sickest, and I ended up ending up in the hospital. And I was there the entire week of Thanksgiving. It was probably one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. And I wasn't even like, I can't say that I was fearful, that I was like, I wasn't afraid of being in pain. I wasn't afraid of any of those things. The number one thing that was really hard for me was like just the idea that I would never see my kids again. I remember when it hit me, like the second day I was there, I was like, remember those images of people like saying goodbye to each other on their iPad, Facebook, and on like iPads and devices and things like that, not being able to be in the same space with them and say goodbye. And I thought, man, I don't want that to happen to me. I don't want this to be the last time I see my kids. And so I prayed hard, and I prayed with our own medicines. I took the other stuff they offered me, the Regeneron. I asked for the stuff they gave the president. They wouldn't give it to me. But it was not a good experience, and I will do anything I can to never have that experience ever again. Like I just did not. It was not a good experience.
And that was early in the game. I want to remind everyone too, that wasn't just this last Thanksgiving. It was a couple Thanksgivings ago when there was no vaccine.
Yes. And as I was one of the first people online when that vaccine became available, because I was like, I'm not going to have this experience again.
Yeah, I remember you were on the show, and I was kind of hinting, hey, can Wendy and I just jump over and get a shot? Hey, what's up, Dr. Staley? Deuces, what's happening? But then our tribe came through, Ho Chunk came through, and we were able to get vaccinated and get both the shots. And that was awesome.
I want to like just also sort of like share here that like it was, it really has been quite the interesting experience. Like the very beginning when vaccines first became available, native tribal communities in urban areas like us, we worked collectively and we worked very hard, and we were very thoughtful and innovative in the way we sort of kind of reached out to our community and got people who were very vulnerable vaccinated. We did that, and we did that very successfully very early on. Significant, like 85% of our elders in our communities got vaccinated within like the first week. When it became eligible, right? We performed better in that work than a lot of large healthcare systems and very large public health structures. And so that speaks to how strong and resilient we are as people and as communities when we come together and we want to solve a problem and we want to protect our vulnerable people. We're going to have an opportunity to do that again very soon when the vaccines for 5 and above get approved. And I want to encourage all of our listeners to like practice the same amount of vigor in trying to protect our children who are very vulnerable. They're in schools without any masks, and and lots of people aren't getting vaccinated in those situations. And Native people, we got sicker faster, we died faster, we got sicker faster, We got hospitalized faster and we died faster than practically any other racial group in the United States. That should tell us something about the choices that we need to make moving forward.
Yeah, it really does. And, you just can't argue with people that aren't doing it or want to do it. I mean, I saw that really cute meme where people are experts that just 6 weeks earlier couldn't do their 6th grade math for their kids. So,
you can't argue with them, but you can pray for them. That doesn't cost anybody anything, and you can pray for people to find, find a solution, come to peace with it, come to acceptance. Those kinds of things. You can at least do that.
Yeah, this has been a great show. Thank you so much, Dr. Stately. You've been listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. Thank you, Lewis, Ogimaa, Wendy, and of course, Dr. Stately. See you tomorrow.
Free Leonard Peltier.
Hi, this is Ken Hageland, host of Living Healthy and Aging Well, inviting you to listen to our live call-in talk